Welcome to Laguna Podcast, an attempt at illustrating the lives and stories from Texas outdoors. Today I sit down with a name mentioned many times on this podcast, one of the few to truly see the fishery in its heyday. This is my conversation with Tom Kilgore. I don't think you're gonna say anything wrong or anything, but just prefacing.
We can.
Yeah. But with that being said, I'm ready to rock and roll when you are.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So I got the literal living legend here that I'm about to exploit for the first time, Mr. Tom Kilgore. And this is extremely exciting, more so now that you and I have sat here for about an hour and talked about all the things that you've been able to do. Funny enough, when I told Wade that I was actually going to be doing a podcast with you yesterday, before I even sent the second text, he called me and he was like, "Andre, there's no way you found Tom." And it was one of those things where it was like, I guess I did. So I am just excited to do this. Do you want to kind of give an introduction and then we'll start with the first question?
Well,
Here, move a little
I
closer.
miss the valley.
Yeah.
I really do. I had so many great friends and miss the Laguna Madre. I fish the sea of memories every day.
Yeah, you were telling me.
Yeah.
So I like to start this with one thing, right? Run me through your first memory in the outdoors. I know you have a lot. Just run me through the first one you can remember. And I want you to just run me through the chronological progression of you in the outdoors. Maybe like first memory to when you met Wade. And then we'll go from there because that's a whole story in and of itself.
It starts
way before that. Way before that. And
I think that seed of passion for fishing hit me hard, I think, at about 3 years old. And it's something that just consumed me. And I did it literally every day as a child, as a kid, both salt and freshwater. I fished it started out with a stick and a string and a piece of bacon in the front yard ditch. Going for crawfish. and I would stay out there for hours doing this. This kid's got a fertile imagination, or maybe something wrong with him. I don't know. But I loved it.
yeah.
And I was very fortunate to have a father that did as well. And my family is originally from the east side, north and east side of Galveston Bay in Chambers County. And we have relatives in our family cemetery. They were born in the 1700s.
Wow.
So this is like living in the swamp.
Yeah.
In the swamps of East Texas. And so hunting and fishing was just
second nature.
Yeah, second nature. And I pursued the fishing, both, like I say, freshwater and saltwater, both there right from my house. I could literally ride my bicycle or ride my horse, and I had horses growing up, and I had a real nice freshwater spot that I could ride down to the bayou, but then there was no bridge. So I would take my rod and reel and some lures and climb up the limbs of crossed over trees over the bayou. And I would go up one and down the other to get to the other side of my spot. And it's tricky, carrying some big old bass and stuff, and that bayou, I spent countless hours on it, fishing for alligator gar and redfish and all kinds of stuff, and duck hunted all the time. I mean, that's what I did, except when I played baseball.
Yeah.
Then later, when I got older, I had to work. That kind of got in the way. And
what age would you say you started working, having to divert some of your time and focus from fishing to having to make money?
I worked. I worked. In my father's business, and through high school and summertime when I was going to college, and I knew all along that I was not going to be doing what my family's business was, which is retail. They had
This episode is made possible by our friends over at Gordy & Sons Outfitters, located in Houston, Texas, and employing a team of experienced outdoorsmen specializing in fly fishing, hunting, and wing shooting. Gordy & Sons is sure to prepare you for success in the outdoors. Next time you find yourself preparing for a weekend getaway or a bucket list trip, be sure to give them a visit at www.gordyandsons.com.
They had lumber hardware, building supply, feed store, hardware. They had a big supermarket. We actually had a meat plant, had butchers and everything. And I remember as a kid, I guess I was about 5 or 6, they brought in some Jewfish, like 300-pound Jewfish into the meat market, and they were laying on the floor in there. And I'm going, my Lord, never seen that. That was awesome. It was really awesome. And, but yeah, so, I knew I was going to be a biology major from the time I was 5 years old on. Mm-hmm. That's what I was. I was into biology.
Yes.
And so I majored in that in school, and I met a wonderful, wonderful girl, my wife, Kathy.
Sitting right next to me.
55 years. We've been married 55 years.
Wow.
And I really, thank you, Lord.
Yep. Finding someone that can let you fish as hard as you wanted to and not make it a problem.
Yeah, exactly. I tried to get her out there a lot, We did. Some and had a great time, but I had to make some money.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I love teaching. I met so many great people teaching. My students became my friends later on, and I had to make some money though, so I had to.
You were teaching in Harlingen, right? Or is this before? You're still in East Galveston and you're about to move down?
No, we moved.
When did you come down?
We moved to the Valley. Kathy went 70.
I got a job.
Mm-hmm. She got a teaching job.
He followed.
Oh, he followed.
Yeah.
He wasn't working then. He was babysitting our kid.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I taught for 8 years and thoroughly enjoyed the teaching experience in biology. I met some, like I said, I had some great friends, and we worked hard at it. I put the kids through the grind. They'd come up to labs at night. I mean, it was quite a deal. I'd get the local surgeons to come in and give discussions on nephric function.
Interesting.
We'd dissect everything, and then they'd give a lecture on nephric function or whatever, whatever the topic was. And, but like I say, Kathy and I had 4 kids, 3 in diapers at one time at one point. So I had to make some more money, So I had a friend of mine that said, Tom, you need to get in cotton entomology. So I pursued it and did very well in my cotton entomology work, and ended up working for a very large farm. And then one day, the guy that we had been doing business with and procuring planting seed said, Tom, I want to sell you my business. I said, what? I don't have any money, And he said, well, I'll sell it to you on a promissory note, So he wanted to retire. Mm-hmm. So I took him up on it, and I've always been a botanist, and I just kind of merged my cotton and botany and got into the plant breeding or cotton breeding, and I did that for, 30 years, and did real well with that, and really enjoyed it. In fact, I just retired this year.
Congratulations.
Breeding, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. That's what saved me in my lack of fishing opportunity here in DeWitt County, Texas.
Okay.
And I was able to keep my mind occupied, so to speak. It was a challenge. And so I first started fishing with Kathy's father, going out of the arroyo.
That was your first exposure to the Lower Laguna?
My first exposure to the Laguna
in
Madre.
73?
Yes.
Okay.
And he had a big old stern drive Sea Ray as basically a ski boat. And Ed was a great guy, but he was not really an intense fisherman. Mm-hmm. And he would take me fishing down there, and we'd just pull into the bank at the arroyo with some live shrimp, and I was just And I'd look out there beyond the mouth of the arroyo wondering
What's out there? Yep.
Yeah. So, my daughter, Bethany, the oldest daughter, she and I went everywhere together. We hunted and fished together all the time. And I had a little 12-foot aluminum boat, but I still have it, a 6-horsepower Evan Reed motor.
Wow.
I still have it.
And this
I had
was
it in
now
high
like
school.
75, 76?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we started fishing out of that, a lot at Holly Beach. We'd put the boat in
Really?
at Holly Beach.
Yeah.
And there was no ramp or anything. You
Like
just-
right off where the house is, you just kind of go off the ramp. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'd just go off the bank. And
And he was babysitting a 3-year-old.
good.
It was giving a 3-year-old good life
Yeah.
experiences. That's the way I see it.
So one day, Bethany and I were out there at Holly Beach, and we had one of those old metal stringers with the plastic coating on it, and I had a big stringer of trout on it, and a shark hit it and got that steel cable
Through it.
caught, and it about tore the side of the boat out. They had it tied in the oar lock, and gosh, I sold that boat immediately. Actually, I gave it to a friend of mine up in the hill country for his ranch, and they didn't go out there in that boat anymore.
Yeah.
It's the large fish in the Laguna Madre.
So those first couple years, you spent it with your daughter, whatever. When did you meet Wade? When did you really start taking it to where you were fishing with an intense person, and both of y'all were like two minds together?
So when I got a better boat, then it opened it up. I think I had my first boat was a 16-foot ski barge with
Nice.
35 horsepower on it. And this is in the 1976 or so, about. And I really, hit the bay hard. And my goodness. And then got into the sight fishing along about, it must have been in the late 70s, getting elevated and starting getting the skinny water and picking them off.
So this whole time we're fishing deep water. You're just more so fishing for fishing. You're not really seeing the tails. You're not seeing,
right.
Okay.
My fly fishing started early on in 1958.
We need to talk about that bamboo rod too. Don't forget.
Yeah. That's 1958. I bought a split bamboo fly rod from my parents' sporting goods store, and it started then. I started tying my flies and all that. In fact, I caught that fish that broke the rod. It was a big old blue catfish, and he splintered it for me. Doggone it! Wish I had it. But then I got other fly rods and all, and I actually fished when I was 12 and 13 years old in the Galveston Bay, catching trout. And that was a lot of fun. But I didn't pick it up again until, when I got with
78.
Wade, and we caught so many fish in the bay. They got to be so easy that the challenge was gone.
But describe those first days before you pulled out the fly rod, before you said it's getting too easy. Describe those days where you were just kind of
I'm
like,
telling you what, the numbers of fish in the bay were just unbelievable. It's hard to run the flat because of the trot lines that were out there.
yeah.
You had to really stay on your toes, and watch them, because every 100 yards is a trot line across the lagoon, and then they all oriented themselves east to west
Against
and
the predominant
bays
wind,
north
yes.
and south. So it was difficult, and but there were so many fish. Oh my goodness, the schools that we would see, just endless.
Yeah.
From Green Island to Three Islands, it would be continuous fish.
That reminds me, Wade called me yesterday and told me a story of you and him on a Super Bowl Sunday where you guys said, all right, fuck the game, we're going to go fishing. And you guys were out by the gas well, and that you guys were surrounded in redfish so thick that you, at that point, it said something about like a Budweiser lure, like a a beer
anything.
can with hooks.
Yeah.
You were unbelievable.
Exactly. And, that's what kind of pushed us to start fly fishing,
Okay.
gosh, when we got into that, I'm telling you, the thrill came back with a surge.
Yeah.
The thrill in fishing and the challenge of it.
If you're enjoying this episode or any others and want to support the project, I would highly encourage you to check out my new book, Laguna. 288 pages with over 300 images and illustrations, containing excerpts by Eric Glass, Chuck Nizer, Tim O'Brien, Bill Gamble, Ben Paschal, Ryan Sparrow, Michaela Elliott, Rick Hartman, Jaco Lucas, John Pilmer, Corey Bauman, Brian Robinson, and myself. Available at select stores, or you can order it directly at buylagunabook.myshopify.com.
And so we actually did the night fishing thing at the Arroyo off the piers where we had literally learned. That's where we learned our casting, and that is real important to spend your time learning how to deliver the fly. And like I was saying earlier, that it's when the Arroyo under the lights for trout is a prime place to do that, because you not only learn how to deliver that fly and your cast technique, but also how to do the hook set part, because that's another thing that is totally different in fly fishing than in spinning or open, bait casters and all, in that you need to set the hook and with a straight line.
Yeah.
You hold your rod tip low and you're jabbing him. And that's what the Arroyo does. So you're learning a complete skill set.
Yeah.
Deliver and execute, and that's a great place to learn. I'd encourage anybody that wants to get into fly fishing to do that night thing at the Arroyo. And but we got into the fly fishing, and we learned it was very difficult because there was no literature hardly at all for saltwater fly fishing at the time.
All you had was
Cray,
the Florida stuff.
Chico Fernandez, and that's was our source of information. And the fly tying and all that was a big part of it. Had a great time doing that, and I'll tell you what, there's real important in your fly fishing. Do you sharpen your hooks?
I actually don't really sharpen my hooks that much. I'm typically fishing thinner wire. So I don't feel like I have to worry about it that much, just because I feel like my human error will dull the hook more than it will sharpen the hook.
It's less important with trout and redfish. Snook is kind of important on that one. Okay. And tarpon is extremely important. I used, you can do it with the file.
Yes. Yeah. I have the,
And, but what I liked was a tool called the point maker, and it was a ceramic spool that, electric motor, it was motorized and it would spin. And you triangulate that point. If you're using steel and wire, it's probably not going to be as important because they come factory laser sharp now, and they didn't do that back then. And we use primarily the 34007 hook.
Yep, must have.
Yes, and you triangulate that point, and it's in tarpon fishing. It was imperative that you do that. One other point that I want to make about it is that I remember one day Wade and I were at the jetties at Mansfield, and the tarpon deal was going on. And Wade got one stuck in his ear, a fly. I mean, a big old, 3-aught hook, and it was through his ear. And then we learned to depress the barb. Makes it a lot easier to get out. And if you fly fish, you've been hit with flies. If you fly fish,
I think everyone's been hit with flies.
Yeah. And we use lead thread a lot. And that's to make it like a pellet without a pellet gun, and but depress that barb. You don't really need it if you're good at fighting the fish. The barb is not real important on it, and if you're fly fishing, you're gonna get stuck. Yeah, and the wind will grab it, and it'll hit you in the shoulder, the back, the head, or whatever. And I did that a lot. I got to where, with the depressed barb, all you got to do is just pull it through, snip it off, and
you're done.
Change fly, Yeah. But the barb makes it difficult
Mm-hmm.
to get out.
That was before the fishing pole at the house, and I walked by it, caught me in my cast. Tim Bothwell, I had to go to his clinic, and he said, "I've got to try this. I just read about it in the magazine. Get me a
The string.
Oh, yeah, the technique, yeah.
He took it out of my leg.
You were patient zero. That's so funny.
Yeah, we started depressing our barbs, and that was a good thing. It wasn't necessary to have them, you know.
Well, you mentioned a couple minutes ago that, you know, you're the kind of person that you obsess over a very specific situation or over a specific fish or whatever. What was the first fish that really was like, that really activated that in you in the lower Laguna? Was it the speckled trout? Was it the snook? I know we talked about the tarpon. As far as, Craig Oatman's concerned, you were the first person doing the tarpon on fly in the surf, like at least in the lower Laguna. So it's one of those things where it's like, I'm curious, which of those fish did it for you first? Because it's obvious all of them did at one point.
All of them did, but clearly tarpon was
your first one?
That was really off the scale.
Really?
It really was for me. The trout and redfish, that was exciting. Clearly, snook, I guess, was probably the first one that I really zeroed in on. But the tarpon was kind of the max for me.
Well, tell me about that first one, that one that was on the Tide magazine and everything.
Wade and I had been on the fish that year. And again, we would go in the boat up the surf, and this is north of Mansfield.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned to set up on the second bar, anchor up. And, it's always a trick, because that's where the waves are breaking, but we would set up on the bar and you could see the fish coming down the beach 200 yards away. I mean, the water's just crystal clear. We go out of Port Mansfield, the mouth of Port Mansfield jetties, and see the bottom.
Yep.
On those days. And so, gosh, we had so many chances, and he just, like I did with the trout, did the same thing to me early on, that it would just like leave you limp.
Right.
Right. So much, it was so exciting that it would leave you limp, jelly legs, so to speak, And we had a lot of close calls, being able to, who's going to get the first one, so to speak. And then, so Wade was working, and anyway, I had a trip set up with Joe Richard. He was the editor of Tide magazine, and to go with, he wanted to go, so we went, and it was really an awesome thing. We got that fish in, and he did. I love that size, which is a small one. I love that size, about 35, 36 inches, whatever it is. And Joe got that picture of me holding that tarpon, and I don't know, that was my first Texas tarpon, and whether others had been caught on the fly, I don't know. I don't know. There may have been some people back in the 50s or something.
Yeah.
I just don't know. And so, it just really, that caught me. That really, I just got totally infatuated with tarpon, pursuing tarpon with a fly rod. And gosh, I caught over the years after that, up near 100 tarpon.
Yeah.
And Texas caught tarpon, not in Florida, and I fished Florida and a lot in the Caribbean and off the Yucatan and in Costa Rica, and just really enamored with tarpon, and less so on the large ones after I caught my big one. I got to meet a gentleman down at Casamar. Jerry Funk and I went to Casamar in Costa Rica in the early 80s. And I got to meet a gentleman down there, he was a general, a retired general. And it was a seasonal basis at Casamar. And he would go there in the beginning of the season. And he'd stay there till it was over. And he fly fished. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got he showed me about tying flies for tarpon and everything. And he threw mainly big seducer flies.
Like blue and white?
I don't recall the blue and white. I never really had much blue in my river. I never really, did well with it. I tried
Interesting.
it, but he he made a comment one time. I was in there tying flies, and he said that that catching the big tarpon is a lot like beating yourself over the head with a hammer, in that it feels good to stop. So my big tarpon experience left me with that. It really hit home, and the meaning of that.
Hit home or hit head?
I hurt for a week. I mean, I literally, my left arm, I could not lift it,
Yeah.
for a week. And that fish killed me.
Yeah.
It was a 2.5 hour battle.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 6 feet long. And I got him on video. I got that whole thing on video. In fact, Trey Dyer saw that.
Yeah.
The video. But what a time. What a time. The tarpon really, that got me going. And then after that, well, then I started, like I was saying, the traffic got so bad in the early 90s in the Bay. I started looking out in the Gulf.
You're like, what's out there?
Yeah. So I went into offshore fishing then.
Yeah.
With your kids.
Still babysitting.
Yeah.
Junior high and high school.
Yeah. And it was a good time. Took the kids a lot,
Yeah.
A wonderful time. I miss the valley so much. That's
I wanna ask a little bit about Wade's first redfish, because you said that was with you on your boat.
that was a big deal.
Yeah.
It really was. Wade was an outstanding fisherman. I mean, intense, He beat me on getting that red, We were both trying to get it done. And in fact, I think when some of the tippet, we started getting into the tippet category, looking for some world records. And I don't think I ever landed a red on 2-pound tippet.
Me neither. I've tried a lot.
Wade has. And I think our only chance at a redfish in Laguna Madre on 2-pound tippet
Has to be on the sand.
has to be on sand.
Yep.
Exactly.
Breaks every time anywhere else. Catches grass. Thing is so thin. Like for a little, I don't mean to go on a tangent, but like for a little bit, I was tying leaders with 200 turn bimini twists on 2-pound into 12-pound shock tippet. Mm-hmm. And you think about that, it's like, that sounds so silly, but it's like, I've never felt that adrenaline rush or doubted myself when a redfish had eaten a fly up until that point. Yeah. It's just one of those things that makes you think more.
The 2-pound tippet is very difficult to deal
tough.
with. I caught some trout with 2-pound, but
Wow.
I never got a red in, And Wade and I figured that was the only place we had, the only chance we had was going to be on the sand.
Mm-hmm.
Now 4-pound is
Doable.
similar. It's doable. You can catch a 4-pound red at Cullen's area or something like that. You got to be lucky, but it's doable. And I think I got 8-pound on trout, 8-pound tippet, and
That was one of your records?
yeah, that's one of my records. And I got the 4-pound, and then Chuck Skates beat it later on, that 4-pound.
Yeah.
And then I got a record on Spanish mackerel in the surf on, I think that was 8-pound tippet.
Wow.
And,
Wow. So we talked a little bit about redfish, and we'll get into more of those stories in a second. One of the things I would like to really go over is the big trout on the sand. You told me about your first one. I want to go over that, but I also want to talk about the flea.
okay.
So let's talk about that big first trout, kind of the fishing back then, how they used to stage. And then obviously I want you to go a little bit in depth about the flea and the leapfrogging, because Wade did.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear your take on it too.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying earlier about, you were talking about getting your first something.
Yeah.
Well, I had many opportunities for a big trout on the fly, but there always be something go wrong, you know, in the cast or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was actually fishing for the drum up
Interesting.
on the sand.
Which we'll have to get into in a second also, but yes, continue. Yes.
And I was, this is in the month of August.
Perfect.
They get up there and get skinny.
Mm-hmm.
And they do the tailing and they do that little opercular, you know, puff. And then the clams the little mollusks come to the top and then they eat them up. So Wade and I developed this little size 4 fly. And it was in the snapping shrimp pattern. And I liked yellow best. The yellow snapping shrimp, but on this little.
Interesting. I find that dark olive works the best for me for right now.
Well, I had Kathy and I had a little dog named Ginger, a little poodle.
Oh, and that was Ginger, the dog you used to cut flies out or cut hair.
Wade and I did a lot. I did Wade the trimmings from the dog would get a shampoo and puff and So anyway, but I found I liked that yellow, and we also used the ginger stuff too on it. But I was up there on the sand pursuing the drum, and all the way up against the island. I mean, where the water stops, and I saw this big trout on the shoreline, and it was real calm that day. You know how it gets up there in the slick, and I got on my hands and knees. You know, and carrying my fly rod and because I didn't want to spook it. And I'd stalk that fish and it would move up a little bit, you know, and I'd move a little further, you know, and gosh, I guess it's 100 yards in my hands and knees. So when I finally got up there and, you know, the time to execute, you got to deliver. I made it, you know, and I split that leader and got that fly on the front of and beyond. And then I timed that intersect back and it just inhaled it.
Yeah.
And it was in real skinny, clear water on white sand. And it was awesome. What a deal. I remember doing a little hooting and hollering, you know, up there by myself on sand up there, you know. And I didn't turn it loose. That was another time, another era. You know, I've got it on the wall in there.
Okay.
And but yeah, that was really quite a thrill to get my first big trout on the fly rod.
At that time,
I'll always remember.
Yeah, and at that time, those fish actually would stage on the sand consistently.
Oh yeah. We didn't have the traffic back in that time, and now there's so many skinny running boats that come flying by at 60 miles an hour. You know that the fish just change their behavior altogether. You know, and that was quite an experience. Really enjoyed the drum fishing up on the east side.
Yes,
that was like Wade and I had actually been doing some bone fishing and stuff. That was our bone fish.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have the right pattern and know what you're doing and everything, you know, it was difficult to catch one on a fly rod. It's like a sheephead on a fly. Yep. It's not easy to do, you know. But once you get the patterning down, you know, you can nail them. And it was a lot of fun doing that on the drum fishing. That's the little mollusk there. Yep. I found out that it's just like a grain crop in the farm in the valley down there, in that they are there year round. It's just that their population explodes and they develop to a full size adult clam in August. So that's when the drum move in there to harvest.
Interesting.
And it was.
I was wondering why they go all the way up there in such big numbers. It definitely was like a seasonal thing, but it was cool to see that like the efforts from Texas Park and Wildlife had actually, you know, allowed us to see sites that hadn't been seen in a long time. So that was really special. What spurred the creation of the flea?
The desire to get close. Where did I get that? I don't even remember where I got it.
It's still here? You have it?
Still here.
I want to see it after this. I'm going to take a pic. I'll take your picture in front of the flea.
You know, all it was is like it's about 4 feet wide and about 6 feet long. And it has a little transom built on it. You know, if you wanted to put a troll motor or something like that. We actually had a troll motor on it. And you could have an ice chest that you could either sit or stand on. and to get elevated a little bit. And Wade and I used that thing, and we could get like right there to the redfish. I mean, just 4 or 5 feet away, get right up on them.
Yeah.
It was I really enjoyed doing that too.
Were y'all catching big fish off the flea?
Oh,
or
yeah.
big trout off the flea?
Oh yeah.
Can't imagine what that's like.
It's you can get in tight on them. You didn't need a push pole. Would be like, a 6 foot any pole, and because it moves so easy in the water. I mean, it's not like poling a boat.
Yeah, yeah.
And I always wondered about the legality of that.
What do you mean?
Need TX numbers on it? I don't know.
It's not powered, right? So I don't think you need it.
We did have a troll motor sometimes.
Yeah, but like electric powered or over 7.5 horsepower or 5.5. Like you still don't need to do anything. Okay. And I'm willing to bet back then, like whenever y'all were making the flea, I'm willing to bet that's when they were like, shooting dolphins with shotguns. I don't think the legality really mattered.
Oh man, yeah. But we had a lot of fun with that thing, and I'm still tempted to use it.
I can see why.
Yeah. And you could carry, like I say, you could have an ice chest on it, and we would do that leapfrog with the wind blowing, and
talk about that, like how you guys would do that too, the motorcycle and everything.
On that.
Or you were leapfrogging on the flea individually, but not with. When did the motorcycle come into play? The motorcycle.
The motorcycle was a friend of mine, Billy Busa, had a pass jumping rig, and when we fished Mexico. We would go into Matamoros and drive to Washington Beach.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna get there for sure. I know that Wade mentioned something about being on the east side and literally leapfrogging with you, like on the bike.
Well, we'd have the boat, the big boat, and one of us would be in it, and one would be in the flea. And how do we do that? We would leapfrog.
Yeah.
But it'd go maybe a mile apart, and go around and then it would just switch, and it was
cool.
something. And you go anywhere, and the boat would float in 3 or 4 inches of water on sand. Yeah, and with a good South Texas wind blowing in the boat,
you're moving, you're chilling,
you're moving. You're covering ground that you couldn't do in a boat, and like any scooter, you can lean a little left, or
turns
a little
left,
right,
turns right,
and you can control your drift.
And so then now I do want to definitely talk about the motorcycle, Billy's motorcycle, and what it was like to actually have access to the Mexican side of the Laguna Madre, which not a lot of people can say that they've done. Something I can't say that I've done.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is pre-cartel, and it was just awesome. We could go through Matamoros and pick up our 500 pounds of ice at the ice house, and then hit Washington Beach, and then drive about 30 clicks to the south and hit Third Pass. And sometimes we'd set up there at the Third Pass with a camp, and sometimes move on, and but we would get to the pass, and then the next morning we'd get up, and that's when we're going to go pass jumping. And we would take the little motorcycle and put it in the boat and put it across the pass, and then pull the motorcycle out and hook it up. And to the boat.
You forgot to mention the fact that there were welded wheels on this boat.
Oh yeah, there were fixed wheels on this boat. I mean, it was not like
a true amphibious vehicle.
Yeah, just that's all it was an amphibious vehicle. And we'd pull it out and then go to the 4th pass and the 5th pass, and the 6th pass was a big distance between the 5th and the 6th. But gosh, the fish were just thick. I was sad one day I saw the gill knitters out there, and they were stacking up big snook, leg long snook, like cordwood on the beach. And I caught my biggest snook
that day
though. Yeah. At that time. Yeah, it was about a 16 pounder.
Wow.
And I remember that was right before school started. I was teaching, and got the rojo. And from being there that long on the beach. And so I couldn't fish in my shorts. I just went in my underwear and got out there, and I got sunburned on parts of the top part of your thigh, where they never see sun.
Yeah.
And I mean, scorched. Oof. I mean, like lobster.
Yeah.
And that was such a painful first day in class. I could hardly walk. You know, I had to go, and walking's really funny on the first day of class. It's not cool. But I had the memories.
Yeah,
I see
absolutely.
memories now.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can tell. You can definitely tell. I want to talk a little bit about the snook fishing. How did you get into that? How did that become your obsession for a while?
Well, because it's so specific, because it's so challenging, because it requires a lot more preparation, planning, all of that. And it's like hunting deer. I mean, you're only going to get so many, only so many shots at them, you know, so many opportunities, and you got to execute. You know, you got to make good of the chances that you do get. And your tackle has got to be in total order. The knots, the quality of the tackle, the sharpness of the hooks. I mean, everything has got to be in place. You can get lucky and get one, but to really be able to execute on the snook opportunity, it really helps to be prepared. I will say, as far as locations, I will say that I'll let everybody know that snook stage, they're not free roaming in the sense like trout and red larvae. They group together and they'll hold together in a spot, and they're guarded. These spots are guarded by everybody that does this, that knows about it. It's not something that you're going to
just get out of anybody. Just,
right.
I understand.
Lips are sealed, you know? And, but I love snook fishing. I really do. I think that's the Ferrari of the fish class.
Yeah, Eric Glass said the same thing.
Is that right?
So they're shaped like a little race car, a little Ferrari.
Exactly. They eat when they want to, not when they have to. I mean, they're so good at what they do. And if you'll look at the adipose tissue in snook, they have much more adipose because they're so darn efficient at what they do than other fish.
They don't waste calories.
Yeah. I mean, they it's the apex of the fin fish for me.
Interesting. I'd like to know definitely one or two stories of you catching snook. Again, you don't have to tell me where it is. If you don't want to, like, clearly. But I want to know like the story of your first, maybe one with Wade, kind of stuff that really like you know, we're talking about fishing in the sea of memories. Well, you're fishing for the apex. I want to know, does that sea of memories in and of itself?
You know, I think my most memorable snook experience was after the freeze. Was 83, the freeze of 83. My father's birthday was September 13, and nobody had caught any snook at all after that freeze, which happened in December?
Yes.
December of 83. So it was I guess it was September of 84. My father came down, and he was a great fisherman. He was awesome. He could catch fish. You visit with Ali Bastetto, you ask him about how he was with a bait caster. He could put action on a lure with a bait caster that I couldn't do, you know? But anyway, we were fishing in South Bay, kind of over on the east side along that break. And he was throwing a Model A, a chrome Model A. And I was down low in the boat at the time, and my father was in the front of the boat up a little bit, and he got this snook strike, and it was 32 and a half inches long. And it came out of the water like 6 or 8 feet in the air, like a kingfish.
Yeah.
They come skyrocketing out. And that's burned in my brain. And seeing that, my father there. In fact, I've got a picture somewhere of my father with a
nice snook.
Yeah. And that's one of my epic memories on snook fishing there in South Bay that he got that after the freeze of '83 when no one ever caught a snook.
Yeah.
You know, we went for a long time before snook came back after that. Not how my dad fished that, caught that. I'll never know. He's a great guy, you know.
Describe what being there during the freeze was like, the actual freeze.
Oh gosh, I lived on a little farm.
Oh, these are the pictures. Wow, that's your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome. Describe it a little. To describe it, it's your dad holding a really nice snook in a driveway.
Yeah. Cameras were.
Yeah, I know. I get that. You wouldn't take those out. You don't take the. Yeah, I get that.
You know, that was back in those days. We didn't have telephones. It had, but the freeze. My goodness, I lived on a farm at north of Harlingen, and it had some of those big Washingtonian palms on the road to the north of us. They were real tall ones. And that north wind blew in, and it blew those big, giant palms over like that. The whole line of them, and they would just do this in that horrible 40, 50 mile an hour north wind that was just frigid.
Yeah, doubling them over completely.
And so in the next 3 days or so, it was just unbelievable. Our bay water temperature went to 27 degrees. It was rolling slush.
Yeah, you were telling me that was crazy.
Waves, and it ice coated everything on Padre Island. And I saw the pilings on Jim's Pier that were encrusted in ice for days. That just accumulated so much ice. It was unbelievable. And it killed basically every living thing in the bay.
Yeah.
The plant matter, crab, shrimp, all the fish, and it stunk so much all the way into March and April. It was stinking.
Like death.
Yeah, like the smell of death. And Wade and I felt like we had lost a good friend. The bay was gone. And because the vegetation was killed out.
I can't imagine that actually. Yeah, everything was just sand and silt.
Yeah, and there was no more clear water.
Yeah, because there's nothing to hold it down. No,
exactly. Yeah. It went turbid, and it was horrible. It was horrible to see that the numbers of fish and big trout and just everything was just dead bodies everywhere.
Yeah,
it was horrible. I hope that never happens again.
Hey, you and me both. You and me both. I don't want it to happen again.
Yeah.
You mentioned a little bit, having that little moment of obsession with fishing the land cut. Mm-hmm. How'd you get into that? I want to talk about the fishing then.
Yeah. Gosh, I tell you, they just got really zeroed in on it, and I learned every pothole.
For what reason? Like what reason said I need to go learn
big trout?
That? Yeah,
I think the lure of big trout.
Heard.
I think that's what really drove me to pursue it like that. I mean, just log trout after log trout after log trout after log trout, and it goes on and on and on. And yeah, Allie and I fished a tournament. Port Mansfield tournament one year we had a storm come in, and I think we had like 27 inches of rain that weekend. And gosh, Allie and I fished from South Bay to the land cut, in that tournament, and we caught some really great fish, but boy, that was some tough.
They go everywhere. They go everywhere.
I think there were 2 people killed during that tournament. One was a King Ranch cattle, guy out working the cattle on the King Ranch, and then another one there at the Y at Port Mansfield.
Really coming rough.
In? It was unbelievable. That's the only place in the world I know of you can have 6 foot waves and 4 feet of water.
Yeah, it's a little hairy.
Yeah, and but. So I love the land cut. My father and I had some incredible trips up there.
Well, I asked because, I've heard of what it looked like back then. I did an episode with Dudley Haas, and, his dad flew over in the graveyard at the time with their own plane. So he saw all of that and then started fishing it and everything. And so before they built the exit or the gut that goes into 9 Mile that doesn't let the fish die anymore, they talked, or, Dudley kind of illustrated to me, you'd see herds of redfish doing circles, and you'd come back the next day and they'd be there and they'd still eat. And after a week, they would stop eating, but they'd still do the same thing because they were getting stuck in there, and the water was getting so saturated with salt that it was making them go blind.
Yeah.
And like some of the other things that kind of blew my mind was, you know, the big black drum would get stuck in there, water would drop, and the birds would eat them alive because it was like, why wouldn't we? It's free food.
Exactly.
I was wondering if you saw any like truly wild things when you fished in that area.
I never saw that there, but we did have a similar problem there in the Peyton area,
Really?
north of the Arroyo. And Wade's father, Dial, was he was quite influential. He actually helped Wade and I. We were working with the Valley Sportsman Club then. Get the Corps of Engineers to change the strategy and put the channels that exist now in through the spoils, because the hydrology of the West Bay there, north of Peyton and all, was getting, just like it was at 9 Mile, it was getting trapped, and it was hypersaline.
Really?
And there was no adequate water flow. So we visited with Corps of Engineers, and by golly, they did it. They bought, you know, and at that time, the other thing that Dial was very instrumental in was cleaning up the bay of the trash and all that was, that had killed it. You remember hearing about Kilgore? They got killed. He hit a over by Rattlesnake. He hit a dredge pipe.
How long ago was this?
80.
Yeah, and so that's why the companies have to pay a fine or remove the pipe now, which you know they end up just leaving the pipe and pay the fine.
Yeah.
But that's why those laws are in place.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So Dial, he actually he bought a great big barge with these winches on it, and would go out and pick stuff up, you know. And we got a big program going. We wanted that stopped. And at one time, the Corps of Engineers had an experiment where they chained tires together and put it on the spoil banks to see if they could stop the erosion, but they would break up on hurricanes and they'd be all over and you'd hit a tire.
Oh.
And so we got them to go out there and get them all out. They pulled them out. So, you know, there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I wish that would have stopped the erosion from Long Bar Island or Long Bar in front of the spoils. That thing could have been crazy right now.
Yeah,
Oy.
It sure would be. I know it's a bird habitat too. You know, and it's I'm glad Green Island is there early in for the bird community.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was one of the things that you were able to see that truly, now looking back on it, you realize you're probably the only person that is able to see stuff like that? And I'm talking just like in terms of quantity of fish behavior, stuff like that, things that, you know, someone listening to this would genuinely be like in awe.
I think I've written numerous letters to Parks and Wildlife pleading with them to make flounders a game fish. And because I know what the population was. Yeah. And what it used to be. And the Laguna Madre is very productive for them, but it's also, they're extremely vulnerable due to the water clarity and it's also, the Laguna Madre is quite a small bay.
It's really small, actually. The more you like fish it and realize it, it's like, oh shit.
And I'd like to see Parks and Wildlife also make the Arroyo a nursery. It is declared as a nursery, but they don't treat it like one.
How do you treat an area like a nursery?
No commercial activity.
There's commercial fishing within the Arroyo?
Oh, yeah. Floundering, for one thing.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, gigging flounders.
Like if they had protected that and like protected like, you know, the
also,
land cut,
the crabs.
cut.
Now, you cannot use a shrimp trawl in the Arroyo anymore.
Yeah.
I think they stopped that in the 60s, I think. Early 60s. But they need to, I'd like to see the Arroyo viewed with much more respect, you know, on what it means from everything from as a habitat for fish and the bird communities all along the Arroyo. It's amazing, you know, to go along in the Arroyo and look at the bird community that exists there. It's very, very interesting and enlightening and everything.
I totally agree. right before Skipper Ray passed, I did a podcast with him, and he actually talked a little bit about an unpopular opinion he had where he wanted to shut down South Bay completely and make it a nursery and not allow any fishing because of how much fishing pressure has just been in the area. But then it's like one of those things where what's going to stop people from just parking outside of the mouth and doing what they do at Gaiman's Bridge and, you know, foul hooking fish and whatever. And it's like, yeah.
That's an issue that it's going to be unpopular, whatever route it goes, be it odd numbers on your registration, ending in odd numbers versus even numbers on days you can go. Or, I mean, we're going to have some constraints on it. At some point coming up, kind of like the water issue in Texas. That's the elephant in the room.
But the desal?
Yeah, we need to be. That's really the only avenue. I'd like to see, if Elon's going to be there, I'd like to see him pursue desalination.
Yeah, desalination is actually pretty good. The issue with the desal we were having in Baffin Bay was that the company that was going to do the desal was lying on reports saying that it was going to be putting the water in another area, or that the water was going to, or the discharge was going to affect the fishery this way. And then, you know, because of guys like David Rousey and, you know, that whole group, they had their own independent researchers come in and be like, what the fuck are you doing with this discharge? Like, take that out. No one wants to take it to the ocean, but if they took it to the ocean, there'd be no problems.
Right.
It's the dumping it into the bay that fucks it up for everybody.
Oh yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just all there is to it. You know, I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's stupid is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to get on a soapbox on it, but I completely agree that desalination is not a bad thing. It's just what they are intending to do with it over trying to save money.
Well, they can't do that. They just can't do that. That's nothing. Stop the development before you do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're wide open development in Texas. They don't have the water for it. That's the elephant in the room. And I don't know. I don't want to get on a soapbox either about it, but yeah, I'm passionate about that.
Understanding. What do you have written on the paper? What are the things you want to go over?
Well, let's see here. I just, let's talk a little bit about the beginners in fly fishing.
Interesting. Okay. I like this.
And just as some major points, if you're interested in fly fishing, I would urge you to, you don't have to have really expensive, gear if you just want to try it. You can use a Fluger's reel, a $14.95.5 for bait fishing and as a beginner, and you'll do well with it. You don't have to spend, I don't know. It's changed a lot on the pricing, I know. It used to be when Wade and I first began, a $300 rod was a big time rod. It's nothing now.
Yeah, $1,200 rod, $1,300.
Oh my goodness. But, you can just get your equipment with like a weight forward floating line to start with, and I would urge you to begin learning how to cast at the Arroyo under the lights for speckled trout.
A tip you gave I really liked was actually your casting and the feeding of the fish is an important thing to learn versus having to learn it in that moment. The delivery of the fly
is one thing. That's learning how to cast. But like for baseball players, if you're really into baseball, you never throw a ball without a target. You just don't throw the ball over there to the guy, You have a target, a button, and in fly fishing, you need to do that. If the Arroyo, it could be a bubble in the water that you're going to try to hit. So always have a target on in mind when you make your cast, and learn how to cast over your right shoulder, over your left shoulder, because you're going to have to negotiate wind. You fish at Laguna Madre, you're going to have to negotiate wind.
Sometimes you can't even negotiate. Sometimes the wind tells you what to do.
Yes. So you need to have that versatility of casting over the left and the right shoulder. The night fishing also will give the opportunity to learn how to set the hook in a fish. And unlike terminal tackle type, like spinning and bait casters, where you actually use the rod to set the hook, you don't do that in fly fishing. You got to hold your rod tip low, and it is the left hand jab. You pull that line back, straight line into the fish, and you get your hook set, and then you engage the rod. And it's real important in tarpon fishing. It's not so much in trout because they got such a soft mouth.
Yeah.
You can actually, you have to, don't do it too much, you'll pull it right out. And, but you learn that, you learn what tippet you're using and the line strength and how much pressure you can apply. But if you try to set the hook with the rod on a tarpon, you're not going to do it, And again, I really emphasize the importance of a sharp hook, a triangulated point. And gosh, Wade and I, our thumbnails would be just perforated from testing,
from checking. You see if you can mark it without.
Yeah, and So let's see what else here.
Well, one of the things you mentioned earlier, I like to talk about, was the fact that for a while there was a lot of sharks that lived on the east side. Mm-hmm. You don't see that often anymore.
No, that's because of the traffic is what did that. That was what changed that. But gosh, when we back in the beginning, we were sight fishing on the east side. Their sharks were a common occurrence. Yeah. Big ones, 3, 4, 5, 6 foot.
Yeah,
that you'd see up there on the sand. And you don't see that anymore. They were that was something that went by the wayside.
And you also saw tarpon near Green Island.
Yeah, I sure have, and they're coming out of the arroyo.
Yep.
And you get there at the right time, right there at Green Island, on the flat, you'll see them come cruising by. Mm-hmm. And Wade saw a permit one time.
Excuse me?
Wade ask him. He saw a permit there on the east side of the island. Did someone catch it or did he see it? But he saw a permit.
Really?
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, Eric Glass caught like a 8-pound mahi on the sand just near. It was like it made sense. Mahi got lost.
So I know now y'all have casting classes I guess that would be great for people to attend. Wade and I didn't have that. There were no casting classes.
Yeah.
There was no information available. But, learning your line speed, have adequate line speed to do what you're trying to do. And you have to learn how to hit a fade or a draw, especially when you're fishing around structure. Mm-hmm. Like snook is a structure-oriented fish. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to negotiate that structure, from, getting the strike to landing it. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to negotiate it. So you need to learn all those moves for your rod and when to apply pressure and how much pressure you can apply.
Did you get to spend a good amount of time with Chuck Skates fishing?
Yeah, enough. Chuck got in it after Wade and I began, I think probably just a couple of years after he started fly fishing, after Wade and I were doing it. But Chuck was making a living. He was guiding.
Well, I'd love to know, like, there's a couple stories of y'all three. Like, if you guys three fished at any point, I'd love to hear.
No, I didn't. I fished with Chuck a couple of times, but we 3 in a boat,
It was a little tough back then. Yeah.
We didn't do that. Our boats weren't large enough really to do that anyway. Mm-hmm. And there's all
the fleet can't carry 2 people.
Yeah, exactly. But interesting thing about in angling, is learning your knots.
Oh, absolutely.
The nail knot. I like the Albright Special a lot, and of course the Bimini. That was paramount that that, especially if you're doing
tippets.
Exactly. You got to learn to minimize your false casting. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's no need to make 3, 4 false casts. I mean, you load your rod once and it's gone. Mm-hmm. So learn to be able to deliver on a timely basis. You do that by minimizing false cast.
I agree. One of the things that I will say on a slightly more advanced note in terms of like casting understanding, typically when you hold line in the air longer, you in turn speed it up more. So like if you're false casting more, let's say there's a fish at 60 and for some reason I don't want to shoot the line and I want to just have 60 foot in the air and lay it down, that line's going to come down a lot faster than if I shot it from 30 to 60. It might come out faster when I first shoot it, but when that fly hits that water, it is so much slower than if I had held that line and put all that inertia into that fly at 60 foot. And those that does make a pretty big difference, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. How does it influence the entrance into the water on influencing the fish?
I would say that, again, holding that line, having all that inertia, just it hits and comes down a lot quicker. And, again, when I was telling you about the trout stuff, for a while I was only fishing subsurface fly, so I didn't have to deal with that. But now it's one of those things where I am throwing, 12, 13 foot leaders. So it's like, I love that I have such a big room for error and I can throw 60, 70 at a fish. And one, I shoot like pretty much every time, but it's even if I did hold that line, I'm losing so much inertia in that leader when it's unrolling that it still gives me a little bit more of like a cushion. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. You just really got to, that's the wonderful thing about fly fishing is that you don't spook the fish like you do with terminal tackle.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about it. I feel actually with a fly rod, I feel better about my chances of catching a big trout on a fly than I do with terminal tackle.
I'm right there with you.
It's just no question about it to me.
Well, I think that, it's hard to find terminal tackle that sits in that right spot for big trout.
Yep.
Because that lure either sinks too quickly or stays right up on top. And a lot of the time, it's like you only have like a short window to get that lure to look good for those bigger fish. But with a fly, especially when it's literally subsurface.
When he's especially when he's not really eating. He doesn't want to.
Just wait, strip.
Get it right in front of him, and they do that. See that big old percolator flare come out like that?
Yeah.
Suck it in. Yeah.
Start getting the shakes and everything.
So what do you see in the new flies that Wade and I started? You buy a store-bought fly, you're not going to have any lead in it. The sink rate is just going to sit there on the surface. And
this is way before Kerry Marcus got into the fly fishing world. So that means that the skinny water clouser wasn't even a thing. There was no bead chain in saltwater flies. It was just lead.
There were some bead chain eyes available, but
not commercially tied. But it was like anyone could tie it. But it was like commercially tied. That wasn't a thing until like late 90s, early 2000s. I think mid. Came out and by Umpqua.
And but I use a lot of lead in my flies, not in the sense of the amount per fly, but all flies would have some, depending on what its function was going to be, what I was going to be using it for. But to get that fly to sink in on at just the right rate in front of a big trout, man, I tell you what, it makes a difference as opposed to one that's up here. You want to get it right there when they're refusing to eat, and they will not turn it down. You put it in front of them, they're going to suck it in.
Yeah, I totally agree. Actually, one of the things that I find really interesting is like you telling me that you tied with lead wire. I think the only other person that I know that tied with lead wire is Bud Rowland, and so Bud actually, instead of putting eyes on his stuff, granted he would on some flies, but like his wool head mullet and stuff, it would be like red eyes meant no weight, yellow eyes meant like 2 turns of lead, green eyes 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. So you had a variety of sink rates and options. And it's like, oh shit,
that's a good idea. I didn't do that, but I really found that having lead was a big advantage for that sink rate, and like fishing off the pier at night for trout, to have that in that. I use a snapping shrimp pattern in pink is really a good one off there, pink and white, and we had a lot of fun, like competition with it. You could have a little mini tournament, would be there, and you get 1 point for a strike, 2 points for a hookup, and 3 to land, but you only get 10 presentations. So we'd rotate through. He'd get up, and you could change flies, and whatever you want to do.
Interesting. I like that.
But you're practicing.
Yeah.
You're practicing the cast and
Interesting.
yeah.
I would definitely like to go over some more big trout stories. I feel like you have quite a few, especially on a fly rod. If you can think of any, that'd be really awesome.
Well, yeah, I've had I actually have quite a bit of video on it. I don't know where it all is now, but it's here.
Oh, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we briefly talked about your records. Talk about the 3 records. I want to know the story behind them and everything. Like, I think those are really important to talk about.
So it was in the month of April, and on the 2 speckled trout records I got, and located the fish south of Cullens, and the fish would early in the morning would just pile into that big cove there by Cullens on the south side, and by about 9:30, 10 o'clock, the water's
Ripping out.
It's ripping out. So I got out off the first step and anchored the boat, and I knew what was going on. I'd already patterned them. And when you're fishing for world records, you just don't go cast at any fish. You're there in the boat, and you got your knots right, the tippets right, and everything, and you hold your fly. You don't shoot. And they come swimming by. They just, nice trout and, reds and everything. Don't want a redfish on live tippet. Now you leave everything. It's one fish for that tippet. I mean, that leader. That's it. It's going to be good for one. And so I saw, the fish were schooled. I'm coming by in groups of, 3, 5, 6 fish, all big ones. And so I got an opportunity at, what looked like it was going to be a record. And I think it was 8 pounds, 6 ounces on 8-pound tippet. Yeah. And you have to play them. I mean, you really do. This is not something you're just going to horse them in. Not going to happen. So that was 8 pound is like that's pretty big, heavy tackle to me.
You can pull it. You can really pull. You're not tripping.
Can.
Yeah.
So I got that one in, and of course you got to send in the leader and the fly and everything, and part of the fly line, and got that one done, and then I'd have to look on the dates, but I think it was like 3 weeks later. It's back doing the same thing, and this time I went with the 4-pound tippet. And that one that's getting pretty light.
Yep.
I mean, it's you have to be real careful with it. And so I had the same opportunity in the same spot, and the schools were coming by. They getting out of that skinny water because they're going to get left high and dry if they don't. And that's something you don't. I hadn't seen people do, at that time, because you set up and you're
Like
waiting
staking
for the
off.
fish to come
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, I don't see that happen even now. I think I've only really done that on like 2 or 3 points that I feel like big trout would move through. And, an hour, 2 hours, just sit there and wait, especially like on a weekday, like Monday through Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
But like weekends, I mean, you're just asking to get run over and over and over. And it's like, all right, why am I even fishing right now?
So another interesting thing that happened where I caught another big trout on the east side was on a you remember the what was it called, Kathy? The air show in Harlingen? Confederate Air Force.
Oh.
I was fishing on the east side, east of 3 Islands again, up against the sand. And a squadron of fighters came by, prop fighters from the Confederate Air Force that weekend. And it spooked a bunch of fish that were way up on the high shelf, off the island. And they came by me, and I got a big old trout in real skinny, clear water,
Really?
on a fly.
Actually, I saw 2 really big trout up on the high shelf sand area. It was the first time I'd seen them in a very long time, at least doing that. And that was one of those things where even on the sand, it just kind of takes your breath away. And you're like, wow, that's a big fish. Like
Yeah,
they
it is.
look
They look
big.
bigger, too.
Yeah, they look big on the west side.
Yeah.
But like they're typically like their stomachs are covered in the grass because they're like typically kind of like just barely over the grass. But when you see like the girth on a big trout on the sand, it's like that's real buck fever, and there's no way to explain it until you're there. It's different.
Yeah, I had numerous opportunities before I got my first one, and it just left me jelly. Anytime. Wade and I both pursued those big trout, and we finally got it down.
He's gonna listen to this. So who's the better trout angler?
Bud Rowland, probably. Yeah.
That's funny. I was just asking.
Yeah. Wade was a great fisherman. I want to tell you what, he was intense about it, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Sure did.
I can't imagine what it was like to see the fishery in its infancy. I mean, I've heard stories of, fish near the gas well, kind of like, the Super Bowl story I told earlier at the beginning, about seeing giant groups of redfish just circle around just west of the gas well. And it was like, back then, I mean, you would park your boat and you wouldn't have to leave. Yeah. You wouldn't need to go pull.
They'd come swimming by and you could see the personalities of each fish on his face.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, and it's like, I can't for actually, it's a good segue. Like, I know that there was only one other place that I can think of in the bay where that happens consistently. And that's in the only protected place in the bay, which is the Bahia Grande. Right. We just talked about that. Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, I can't imagine what it would be like if, I could wake up in the morning, like 7 a.m. and drive 15 feet or 15 minutes from the ramp and be in a school of redfish so thick. It's actually black. Like it's one of the things you just, wow. Like, I don't know. It's one of the things I can't picture, but I bet it was something special.
Yeah, it was. It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
So much now, and it still has the magic. It still has the magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
who were some people that you were fishing with at the time, or people who we would call peers in the space who you may have not fished with, but also had like their name known in the area as like someone who was fishing almost as hard or as intense as you guys?
Joe Jones.
Yeah.
Well, Ali Bestedo.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to meet him in a couple of weeks.
And Rick Guerrero would be a good one to talk to as well.
He's in the area also, right?
Yeah.
I've heard his name
He's
also.
in Harlingen.
Yes, okay.
And certainly Freddie Payton.
Freddie Payton, the Payton scooter.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah. He was really an intense, great fisherman.
I mean, to create the tunnel, you have to be thinking outside the box. You have to be really mad at him.
Yeah, exactly. And that was his stomping ground too.
Yep.
Right there north of the Arroyo, the west side.
Wow.
Payton place.
Yep. Wow, man. I mean, so we're at an hour, 17 minutes. Typically they're about an hour 15. So we've gone over what the average is. If there's nothing else that you can think of that you want to talk about, we can start to close it out. If there's something that you want to talk about that you thought about that I haven't brought up yet, by all means. Oh, what was that?
Well, just one thing is that when Tom went fishing, he always said, I'll be home at night.
Uh-huh.
That was one of the things that he would go off, don't know where he is, and he would always be there at night. One morning I woke up, I turned over, king-size bed, no Tom. I thought, well, this is weird because he is always, for anything, hunting, fishing, I'll be home at night. Called Ali Bestedo. Ali, Tom didn't come back. He goes, don't worry, he got caught by a low tide. So Ali takes his plane and brings out a gallon of water and apples and bananas and flies over the island where he knows Tom is just sitting, probably fishing early.
Waiting for a big trout.
No, it was high and dry.
Drops the food, calls me and says, don't worry. He always called me Kathleen. He said, don't worry, Kathleen. He's on his way home.
Yeah, it was dry. It was no water.
Here, grab the microphone. One of the things that Wade told me on the phone was that you were very good at catching really big mangrove snapper in the ship channel.
Yeah, that's the other. We hadn't talked about them, but I still get a charge out of that.
Me
I
too.
really do.
I think they're
Mangrove
so
snappers.
sick.
Pardon?
I think they're so sick, especially when they eat little topwaters and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Oh, they're special. But tell me about that stuff, how it was like when you got into it.
Well, I tell you what, it's you talk about a tussle, you know. You hook one of those guys up, the big ones. I think the biggest one I got was 27 inches in there.
What was that, like 8 pounds?
Yeah. Right. in there.
Monster.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a battle from the very beginning. And if you get them out away from the structure, it goes vertical.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real difficult to get them up. And I think that was the challenge of them. I've had them where they would literally bite the hook. I had one bite my thumb one time where the canines went on this side, went through the nail and it well into this side.
Like a hole
the
puncher.
underside. Yeah, like a hole puncher. And Allie had to take 2 pair of pliers and open the mouth to get them off. You know, from one of those big guys. They call them snappers for a reason. You know, and but yeah, the mangrove snappers are. You know, I asked Allie because, like I was telling you, he fished the ship channel as a kid in the '60s, ride his bicycle there, and I asked him, Allie, did you have mangrove snapper back then? And he said, no, they didn't. So it was.
You think that was like a construct from like the ICW and stuff? Like when they finished building or when they built out the jetty or something?
May have been. It may have, that may be what brought them in, but the jetties have been there since
For a
around
lot
the
longer.
30s.
Yeah, I know, a lot longer than that. I was just, I mean,
I think it has to do with the
salinity?
snook weren't there. He said the snook weren't there either, like that, like they are now.
Huh.
So it may be the warming,
yeah,
yeah, because we're getting them all the way up the coast now, all the way up here. They're catching mangroves here.
Well, it means we'll have bonefish eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a possibility. That'd be the good thing about it,
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about what it was like to fish for snapper in the ship. I assume back then they were even more aggressive because sometimes when you get into them and they're on, like they're crushing topwaters. And
absolutely they do. And then you'll have schools of them, very competitive fish. When they all want to get it and they fight over it.
Yeah.
And I heard this year though that their numbers are down. What I've heard.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't spent much time doing it this year. I've really been mostly focused on the podcast. The book came out and stuff like that. So I was, mind on that. And then just recently, I've been fishing pretty much every day for the last 4 or 5 months. It's been perfect. Like I'm starting to feel comfortable. Like I know what I'm doing versus, I've been to this spot, there's a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. The familiarity.
Yeah. You feel at home.
Yeah,
You're like, all right.
Exactly. I finally developed that offshore. I got to where, offshore I'd know my lat lawns, or, the Loran numbers and everything, at any get. I didn't even have to look. I knew what they were.
Wow.
And you develop that.
Yeah. I've never been able to look at deep water like that. Like typically for me, it was just the bay. And anytime you just go in deep water, it's just like vast openness. It's like, I don't know where to go.
Yeah. It's God, angling has been a big part of my life.
Yeah, I can tell.
From the very, very beginning. And my recommendation to anybody out, take a kid.
Well, actually, don't say that because we are going to finish with that. That's the last question I was asked.
Yeah, make sure it wiggles.
Yes.
You don't need to bog the kid down with, all these demands about being
perfect.
and all that. Get something that wiggles.
Yeah, just fish.
Yeah.
No, well, so the way I like to end these, right, is I ask 2 questions. So the first question is, looking back at everything you've done in your life, granted, you've experienced a lot. Is there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
been more conservation oriented. I think that would be number one. I killed a lot of fish. I did, I didn't need to do that.
Yeah, well,
We did eat them. I'm telling you,
people kill a lot of fish now, and they let it get freezer burned under the guise of it's my right. It's what I needed to feed my family. All right, whatever, dude.
Consider my source, the people that I'm from. This is back in the 1800s. My family's from. We lived on the bay, so the shrimping and the fishing.
Second nature.
Yeah, it was second nature. We had our family reunions would have a big baked redfish, with fried crab and shrimp and everything, and gumbos and all that, and but what would I do different?
Or would you do anything differently aside from the conservation thing?
I took my kids.
Yeah.
So I like that. That was real special. Remember, I had 4 kids, and they all like fishing.
That's a really good stat right there. That means you're doing it right, dude. Wow. So that's a pillow that has a picture of Tom and his grandson holding a 5-pound bass. Oh, and Thomas holding the fish also. What, a 5-pound, 6-pound bass?
Yeah, it was.
It looks a little bigger. I don't know how to gauge past that well.
It was a heavy one. Now look at that rod's about this long.
Let's go fishing. I like that. That's awesome.
So I'm instilling that in my that same burn.
You're doing it right. You're doing it right. The last question I have is, as if you're talking to the next generation, in this case, think about your grandkid, a couple years from now. What is a piece of advice you'd give them if them wanting to go, let's say they want to go into the outdoors or into the industry of the outdoors? What is a piece of advice you'd give them?
Respect. To respect all of God's creatures. If you take the life of one, treat it with that due respect. My grandmother taught me that. She was half Indian, and she taught me to respect, my waterfowl. When I get a duck, it looks like I get through preparing it. It looks like it came off the shelf at the HEB, and I just, the respect, the outdoors, all that's there, treat it, like it's going to stay there. You don't just go in and take and waste. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's respect.
Interesting. I like that. That was a good answer. Well, with that being said, we're at the 1 hour and 26-minute mark.
Okay.
I really have enjoyed the time that you and I have spent together. And if we had a microphone on whenever we're going to the book, that would have been the hour and a half. So this has been awesome. I'm so genuinely grateful that you were the hospitality, beautiful, beautiful property. And I'm just really glad that we finally got to do it.
Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity to get to visit with you and revisit.
Yeah.
Not fishing in the sea of memories and all my friends in the valley and everything. It's a great time.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, with that being said, we're ready to rock and roll, my friend.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.